This is the Black Information Network Daily Podcast, and I am your host, Ramses Ja. And sometimes the amount of stories that make their way to us means that we simply can't cover everything that comes our way. But from time to time, a story just stays with me, and I feel compelled to share it with you and give you my thoughts. And now, one more thing. Okay, so the Supreme Court says Donald Trump is partially shielded from prosecution. I'm going to share a bit from the New York Times just to bring you up to speed. Won't be long, but it's important to follow things like this so that you can have a peek behind the curtain. Again, New York Times. The Supreme Court ruled on Monday that former President Donald J. Trump is entitled to some level of immunity from prosecution, a decision that will almost surely delay the trial of the case against him on charges of plotting to subvert the 2020 election past the coming election in November. The vote was 6-3, dividing along partisan lines. Mr. Trump contended that he was entitled to absolute immunity from the charges, relying on a broad understanding of the separation of powers and a 1982 Supreme Court precedent that recognized such immunity in civil cases for actions taken by presidents within the, quote, outer perimeter, end quote, of their official responsibilities. Lower courts rejected Mr. Trump's claim, but the Supreme Court's ruling may delay the case enough that Mr. Trump would be able to make it go away entirely if he prevails in November. The ruling. The justices said that Mr. Trump is immune from prosecution for official acts taken during his presidency, but that there was a crucial distinction between official and private conduct. The case returns to the lower court, which will decide whether the actions Mr. Trump took were in an official or private capacity. Okay, so what I want us to focus on, well, first is that this was divided along partisan lines, a vote of 6-3. And the importance of the courts cannot be overstated. Those of us that made it through 8th grade social studies, that took a government class in high school, that, probably went on through college, might know about the three branches of government. For folks that can't remember that far back, or, just it was never really their thing, you may not know, but there are three branches of government. The executive branch, which is where the president is, and the president's administration. The legislative branch, which is basically the House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. So Congress is what I mean to say. And then there's the judicial branch, which is the courts, all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the reason that this country was established to have those three branches of government is so that there could be checks and balances. In other words, one branch of the government cannot simply run away with the country. So each branch of the government has to agree on something in order for meaningful changes to society can take place. And each of those branches have their own bar to meet in order to suggest changes or bring about the proposals for changes. And in this way, power remains with the people in theory. And in this way, the United States of America distinguishes itself from a theocracy, a monarchy is what I mean to say, etc., which is where the founding fathers of this country that's what they were trying to escape, which was a monarchy. This was intended to be a government by the people, for the people. So just a brief civics lesson there for everyone. And for folks that aren't intimately familiar with what Donald Trump has done. Like, I can see it. I can see the manipulation. I can see the maneuvers. And a lot of people can see them. You know what I mean? Him rushing to get Supreme Court justices elected. I guess not elected, but seated, was a part of a larger maneuver. And now he can lean on that maneuver that he made way back when, for circumstances such as this. A comfortable conservative majority says that Trump is entitled to partial immunity. He can appeal to them, know that they'll give him that, which effectively causes enough of a delay so that he can see how the election will shake out. And since this one is federal, if it does shake out the way that he wants and he regains the presidency, he can just pardon himself and the whole thing goes away. Swept under the rug. Even though we saw him. He invited the crowds down. Of course, he wants to rewrite history, but he invited those crowds down to Washington, D.C. Will be a fun time. Will be wild. You need to fight like, I forget his exact phrasing, but he did mention the word fight. And stirred up all those people and have them attack the Capitol. And the Confederate flag waved in the rotunda. And that's something that the Confederate Army wasn't even able to do. And it was because of Donald Trump. And he sat by for hours and watched it on TV as it happened. And then when enough was enough, he said, all right, made my point, everyone go home. Not forget that he fought tooth and nail across the country to try to establish that the presidency was being stolen from him. Lost 100% of the cases that he filed in all the states. I think there was something in the neighborhood of like 40 lawsuits filed. Could not win one of them. Could not produce enough evidence to suggest that the election was stolen. And still stands on that. There's still people that will believe him. But see, it doesn't matter what we believe because we're not the ones writing history. The person writing history still at this point is Donald Trump because he elected those Supreme Court justices. Those additional, or nominated, I should say, those additional Supreme Court justices. Now, this is just a glimpse into Project 2025. Now, for those that watch the BET Awards, you might recognize Project 2025 as the thing that Taraji P. Henson compelled everyone to look up. Look it up. The most vulnerable of us are under attack from Project 2025. And this maneuver indeed shows you exactly how that looks. Let's get conservative people that we can trust in positions of power. Let's give those positions broader powers and less oversight. And then we can fundamentally reshape this country into a permanent conservative haven, a haven for conservative ideas and values. And for the conservatives among us, that might sound good. But for a lot of people that listen to this show, bear in mind that you're a black conservative. And there's no version of reality, a conservative reality at least, where you're not a second-class citizen in that framework. Conservatism, insofar as this country is concerned, benefits only heterosexual, Christian, white males who were born healthy. That's it. And they've managed to make everyone who espouses those values fall for the okie doke. Oh, I'm going to look out for you. I got you. I'm going to take care of you. And to be fair, white women can benefit from it. Black people can benefit from it. Look at Clarence Thomas. But make no mistake, in a deeply conservative America, white women are still second-class citizens. They have to do what the white men say. And Clarence Thomas is no exception, and all the Uncle Toms like him. And so, in brief, I wanted to discuss the ripple effects of this maneuver that Donald Trump made in stacking the courts in this way. And this gives some insight into what the future would look like, because Project 2025 is coming if a new Trump administration is sworn in. And we can attack the constitutionality of everything that they try to propose. We can attack whatever it is that they think they want to take from us or change in society or whatever it is that they want to do. We can try to attack it. We can take them to court because that's how societies work. But if indeed they've stacked the courts, which they will do, it's on their website. And there's tons of prominent businesses and networks that have endorsed this. Then there'll be nothing that we can do. They want to reshape society permanently in their image. And what it looks like is, again, the Supreme Court saying Trump is partly shielded from prosecution, which technically delays his trial long enough for him to get out of it. And again, if he wins the election, it's 4 years. And after 4 years, we're not we don't think of when he said, I want to grab him by the P word. We don't think of, his sexual assault cases. All these things are now in the rear view. Now we're talking about his debate with Joe Biden. We're forgetting all of these things, him making fun of reporters, him, defunding the CDC prior to COVID, him deregulating the railroads, and then we have all those railroad crashes. We're forgetting we got short-term memories. He deregulated so many industries where we needed the protections, and we all suffered as a result of it. So we have short memories as a society. And this is how Donald Trump is writing the story, not us. Something to think about. And something to talk about. If you got something to say, let's talk. You can reach me on all social media at RamsesJah, or of course you can use the red microphone talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app. And until we chat, peace. This has been a production of the Black Information Network. Today's show is produced by Chris Thompson. Have some thoughts you'd like to share? Use the red microphone talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app. While you're there, be sure to hit subscribe and download all of our episodes. I am your host, RamsesJah, on all social media. Join us tomorrow as we share our news with our voice, from our perspective, right here on the Black Information Network Daily Podcast.